Hey guys, it's Gideon. So with the delay of Phase 3 of Alpha 2, I decided to spend a little bit of time in the PTR. So this past weekend, there was a test where they wanted everyone to jump in, see what the leveling feels like, and then they sent out a survey on Monday morning. One quick note, any of the footage that you see in the video is just B-roll from other phases, just for something to look at while I'm talking. The PTR is obviously under a visual NDA and it's watermarked, so nothing that you see represents what's on the PTR. Just wanted to make that absolutely clear for you guys. So I wanted to just talk about that unedited a little bit. The main thing they were looking for feedback on was how the leveling experience felt, scaling with experience and power and that kind of stuff, also how drop rates felt and stuff like that. So my feedback, I thought the 1 to 5 leveling felt really good. I was going to say a lot better, but I would just say it felt really good. So I didn't feel like it was going too quick where it was trivial. I also didn't feel like it was unnecessarily grindy. And that's for the pacing, like the leveling speed. I also didn't feel overpowered or underpowered. Now, I only did it as a cleric because that's what I intend to play a bunch, or as my main in Phase 3. But just overall, it felt good. It felt well-tuned. So as long as it doesn't change more than maybe 10% in either direction for both the experience and the power scaling, I think they have that very early game intro experience tuned fairly well. The drops felt better than kind of the current live server as well, because right now in this kind of in-between 2.5 phase or whatever we're calling it, drops are definitely more rare, and there's still this token-based system where you do a handful of small quests and you get tokens and you turn them in a town to get like your starter pieces of gear. So those quests actually still exist, and they just give you like a chest where you can pick like a just okay, intro white quality piece of gear. So those quests aren't as good, but you can still do them to get some gear. Oh, the other thing that I forgot to mention is they were looking for feedback on, how much like money do you get as you're leveling up, and how does that feel? How does that pacing feel? So I guess a couple of things combined on both drops and the money piece. Fighting like highwaymen, which if you haven't played, kind of like level 4-ish, starter or next to the starter zone mobs, we're dropping a bunch of gear, like way too much, and it was like level 10 gear, and it was all heavy gear. So I think there was a drop table issue there. Other than that, I did get like a few accessories. After a while, I ended up actually getting like a kind of cool weapon. So drops are still rare, but you're seeing them. So that felt pretty good. I think maybe the drop rate could go up a little bit, assuming they kind of nuke that accidental level 10 heavy gear dropping like every 2 or 3 mobs, fighting in that starter area. That was kind of weird. My feedback on the money, like how fast you get silver or gold, that was hard to give, because leveling 1 to 5, I was able to afford kind of the starter set of gear off the vendor for level 5-ish, but that was because I was selling a bunch of that gear. So I think they need to fix the drop table, for accidentally dropping that level 10-ish gear in the starter area. That doesn't really make sense. I think if they maybe, I don't know, you see like 10% as many drops, then maybe increase the amount of glint that you get or something like that. Yeah, I think the way it panned out, the rate at which I was able to get silver to afford the gear that I bought was good, but if they take away all those drops, it'll still be a little bit too low. So at the end of the day, I think if you feel well balanced, not too powerful, not too weak, you don't just blink to level 5, but it also isn't like a grind, right? So if they keep that sweet spot, and by the time you get to, let's say, at least, or I'd say, at most level 6, you can even like sell glint and drops you don't want, stuff like that, and you can afford like the the weapons and the starter gear off that initial vendor in the Lion's Hold area, I think that's pretty good scaling for that intro experience. Another piece of feedback that I gave was at the other milestones, like that level 10 milestone or the level 20 milestone, I think if you're just kind of the average player and you're able to afford the baseline upgrades relatively easily, for both of those milestones, that feels balanced. That feels pretty good. I think anything beyond that, like higher quality items, those should feel like an achievement or an accomplishment. But I don't think there should be a really heavy grind just to get the baseline gear for that milestone level that you're at, whether that's 5 or 10 or 20, if that makes sense. So I think they're on a good path. It felt pretty good, and hopefully they're receptive to that feedback. So I'm curious, if you jumped in, what did you think? Do you disagree with me? Do you have other thoughts that I missed? I think the only other thing that might be interesting for any of you that have access to the game already is everyone has PTR access now. It's just under visual NDA. So you can jump in and make any character you want, and you can boost it to 25, you can get gear and money for free and test things out to your heart's content, at least while it's up and running. So highly recommend doing that. If not, meaning if you don't have access, watch some creators and go see what the game looks like to you right before you spend money. But if you've already put money down, there's no substitute for just jumping in and trying it yourself. Do me all the favors. If you didn't hate the video, do the like, subscribe, share it with a friend kind of stuff. But until the next one, peace.